My dad passed away about 6 years ago. I know this is not the happiest way to start off a story, but stay with me. I promise we're going to have some fun here today. And in the weeks after he passed, I spent a lot of time at my parents' house. My dad long since retired, but in the basement he kept a small desk. Scattered around the desk were all these little scraps of paper, Post-it notes slapped on the wall, with the names and phone numbers of the friends he made over the years. So I pick up the phone, start to dial up these numbers, and I share the news: my dad's gone. And of course, these people, they share their condolences. But then a magical thing starts to happen. Time and again, these people, many of whom I never met, they start to share these amazing stories about their experiences with my dad. These little slivers of his life that I knew nothing about. Every one of those stories, just pure gold. And I want to share one of them with you here today. It involves a phone call to a guy named Frank. Now, decades ago, my dad and Frank are working for the same company. My dad, born and raised in New Jersey, is the vice president of sales for the eastern half of the United States. Frank, born and raised in Southern California, he's the vice president of sales of the western half. And business, man, it's booming. So they fly my dad down to the home office. President of the company says, "Craig, I'm going to make you head of sales of this whole company. Now pack up your wife and kids and come on down to Fort Worth, Texas." I did say my dad's born and raised in New Jersey, right? And look, no offense, anybody here from the Lone Star State? But my dad hated going to Texas. There's no way he's taking that job. He turns it down. And over the next couple of months, he's demoted down to a field sales rep, and eventually, he's kicked right out of the company. Now, this part of the story I know. My dad would reference it whenever I would seek his advice as I'm going through my own challenges in my career. But in that phone call with Frank, I hear another part of the story. You see, after my dad turns down the job, they fly Frank down to the home office. And the president says, "Frank, I'm going to make you head of sales of this whole company. Pack up your wife and kids and come on down to Fort Worth, Texas." Now, unlike my dad, Frank is excited. He sees this giant opportunity. But before he says yes, he makes a call to my dad. And my dad tells him, "Frank, you were born for that job. You go to Texas, Frank, you're going to be a huge success. But you're born and raised in San Diego. Your wife, your 3 beautiful girls, they love living so close to the beach. And like me, Frank, I know you don't like going to Texas. You can take the job, but what will that decision do to the most important people in your life?" Frank turns down the job. He tells me that was the greatest advice he ever got in his career. And not moving to Texas, that was the smartest decision of his life. All because of a phone call with my dad. That's pure gold. I learned a lot of things from my dad over the years. I learned a love for Seton Hall University pirate basketball. I learned the brilliance and the music of Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. But the greatest lesson my dad ever taught me, I learned it after he was gone. I learned it sitting at that desk making those phone calls. And that lesson, it's the same reason we are here as part of NSA. It's not about us on the big stage under the grand lights. It's about the difference that we can make in someone else's life. That's the stuff that matters. That's the reason we're here. Thanks, Dad.